Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillahi wahdah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala man la nabiyya ba'dah. Amma ba'd. So we have covered how to shroud the dead person. Now, how to carry the bier and take it to the graveyard for burial. It is sunnah that 4 men carry the coffin. So each person to walk for 10 steps on each side. So the best way is that the person lift the corner, which is the right side of the deceased person. So imagine that bier is elevated, the dead person is lying there with the right side on, obviously, one end, and that's where you start. And you would carry that on your right shoulder. Walk for 10 steps and let someone else take over, and you move to the other side. So Rasulullah ﷺ said, whoever carries a coffin for 40 steps, then 40 major sins are expiated from him. And this is a big reward, inshallah ta'ala. One should not put the body or the coffin on a beast or on a car or something like that, unless the graveyard or the masjid is quite distant away, so one cannot walk that far. Then it's okay to put that in a car or in a bus or any carriage. But without that, if it's doable and there are enough people to carry the bier, they should do on their shoulders. That's the right and one of the final rights of the dead person. So again, as I said, should begin from the front right of the coffin, which is the front right of the deceased person. And one should be obviously keeping on the right shoulder. Then slide backwards and carry the back part of his right shoulder again. And then carry the left front side. Obviously, this could be a bit tricky when there's so many people around. This is only recommended. You don't have to do in that order. Wherever you could do, then it's fine. But front and the back, and then left front and left back on the left shoulder. So total will be 40 steps, taking 10 steps on each side. You should walk quickly, but not so fast that it sways the dead body. Shouldn't shake it at all. Rasulullah ﷺ will say, be quick with the deceased, for if it is a person who is righteous or who was righteous, then you have forwarded it to be welcomed by the angels. So means he's going to his destination, he's going for the goodness. If he was bad, then you're getting rid of that bad person, you're keeping him away. So be quick in that sense. One should walk behind the dead body, not in front of it. Sayyidina Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu would say that he would take oath in the name of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and would say the greatness of walking behind the coffin over walking in front is like the greatness of obligatory prayer over a voluntary prayer. So that is the difference between the reward. So one should try and avoid walking in front of the dead person, should walk behind it. That's honoring it. To do any dhikr at that point audibly is disliked. One should not say anything aloud, rather everything should be recited quietly within your heart, within your mind. And there are many people who every so often intermittently encourage others to say something aloud, and that's not the way. One should be contemplating, quietly walking, asking for forgiveness and for the steadfastness of the dead person, but all quietly, inaudibly. One can cry, obviously, there's no problem with that. And some people say, oh, kullu nafsin dha'iqatul maut, everyone has to die, saying those sort of things and reminding people thereby or in that way is actually considered a bid'ah. It's not a right thing to do. It has not been done by the pious generations. Women shouldn't join the congregation or the procession. And it is quite befitting for the final rituals done to the dead person by showing utmost respect and honor, even to the point that until the bier has been put down on the ground near the grave or in the masjid, outside of the masjid for janazah, one shouldn't sit there unless someone is unwell and has excuse. Otherwise, let not sit before the dead has been taken off the shoulders. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would actually suggest that, and he himself would stand up if he finds a dead body walking past. There was a Jewish man's funeral was being carried on the shoulders. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam stood up. So companion asked, Ya Rasulullah, he was a Jewish man. He said, Alasta nafsan? Alaysat nafsan? Was he not a soul? So the honor is just being the human being, just by virtue of someone's being a human. Obviously, if it's a Muslim, then there's more honor to that. Now, we don't have to do it. It is just a way of showing the respect. Someone is leaving this world, let them go with some dignity. Now, whatever happens to them, that's between him and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when you see a funeral procession, you should stand up, and whoever accompanies it should not sit until the coffin is put down. Hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari. It's a recommendation. Obviously, it would not be a major sin or sin. Rather, it would be a disliked action. Khilafu awla as well, not preferred. Now, when you dig a grave, it should be at least up to the half of the height of the dead person, halfway, to the body. So about 3 feet. That must be a sort of minimum height for the grave to be dug. And if it's, deeper than that, that's even better. And there are 2 types of graves. Lahad, lahad, which is L-shaped niche. So what you have a trench, a rectangular trench, and towards the Qibla side, you create extra L-shaped niche. So this one would be the long arm of the L, and that niche would be the short side horizontal arm of the L. So towards Qibla. So the man is then being put, or the dead body is then put in that niche, and this side would be all empty actually. And this is how it was done for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that's preferred way. And the shiq, which is a normal grave that we always see, all the trench, there's a small trench dug for the dead person. That is how it is. And the reason it is done here in that way is because there's a lot of rain that happens. The earth is very soft. The soil is so soft that if you make it a lahad, L-shaped one, it would collapse on its own. So you don't. So that's why don't do it here. In arid, deserted areas, that's more preferred, and that's closest to Sunnah as well. So you do that if you were in a hot country, not in the West or in the UK where the earth is so soft that it would collapse. So this is how a lahad would be L-shaped. So this is the janazah, head this way, like that way, towards Qibla, and you put that inside here and keep that turned to the right, towards Qibla, and the mound of sand underneath, just to keep that in place towards Qibla. And you cover this side with some bamboo tree, or if you the branches of bamboo or something similar, some wooden planks or something, and then cover this as well with the earth. So that's the preferred way, but we do this one, the normal rectangular one, and you can put some timber at the top. It could be coffin here, that's up to you, but don't have to have it, but it's permissible to have a coffin like that. Okay, so if the earth is soft, it's preferable to use a shiq. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said the lahad is for us and the shiq is for the others. When the body is about to be placed, it should be placed from Qibla side, from the Qibla direction, sideways. Imam Shafi would suggest to put from the leg first, from the head end, but that's a difference of opinion. But we do from the Qibla side. This is how Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was placed. And when you're placing a body inside the grave, to recite this, Bismillahi wa ala millati Rasulillah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In the name of Allah and upon the religion of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You can have 2 or more people in the grave to help the dead body being lowered down. Many times it's heavy, even if it's not, it's more respectable. It looks nicer, and then you don't have to have too much of a stress. So ideally, 1 person or 3 person, odd number is better than even, but 2 is generally what is required at least. Now, the dead body should face Qibla throughout. What tends to happen, most people would just put the dead body there and turn their head towards Qibla. That is not what is required. That's not the best way. The chest and whole body should be towards Qibla. So turn towards Qibla, not like, vertically, so it should be more than 45 degrees if possible, about 45 degrees at least. So by putting something behind it, behind the dead body, at the back of the dead body. So the Baytul Haram, which is Makkah, is your Qibla alive or dead. So you still face the Qibla as you would normally face in the prayer. And then you undo the knots which were at the top and at the bottom of the shroud after the lifafa has been, the body has been wrapped in the lifafa, the outer covering. This is how Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam commanded. Samurah ibn Jundub perhaps was the Sahabi when he passed away. More likely him, or could be someone else. Another Samurah. Doesn't say the full name. I didn't copy it. So ideally, unbaked bricks and bamboo cane are placed over the niche just to cover that. And lateral hollow, which stays there, and this is for the lahat type, obviously we don't use it. And we use mud or cane and cover it. Now, baked bricks or tiles and things like that are generally discouraged. And if it's done to beautify, it would take the rule of construction, which is haram. We are not supposed to do any beautification or construction over the grave. Likewise, cement slabs are makruh tahrimi, actually, unless it's very soft soil, which we see in the UK. So we use it here because there is a leeway for that in this type of soft soil. Otherwise, it would just collapse. Now, when women folks are being buried, they should ideally be covered with the sheet at the top. Men don't need that. It is just more for the satar, for their covering. It's more pleasing. Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu was once passed by people. They were burying their family member, and they were just trying to cover it. Sayyidina Ali said, this is for women, not for men. You don't have to do for men. Then obviously you fill rest of the grave after the planks been put with the sand. Now, ideally, you would try to use the sand which was dug out to create that trench. Same should go back, same amount should go back. You don't need any extra from here and there. And ideally, everyone should take part in it, to have 3 scoops and put on the grave saying minha khalaqnakum wa fiha nu'idukum wa minha nukhrijukum taratan ukhra. It's not a must to say it. It is only mustahab at the most, or mubah, but don't consider it to be a sunnah. But it's okay to do so though. And this is the basis of that. Obviously, some people would question the authenticity, but still, inshallah ta'ala, good action to do. And it reminds us of our ultimate departure from the world. And afterwards, the grave should be made into a hump of a camel. So it's like not a square something, but a hump about a handspan high from the ground, ideally, if possible. You can't beautify the grave with some building on it. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam forbade any plastering, and he didn't allow to sit on the grave or to walk on it, obviously. And obviously the reason being that one should remember the grave is not there to be forever. It's all eternal. Everything has to be, if it's all mortal, you don't want it to be immortal or eternal. So things have to decay, things have to move. So you don't keep it for forever. Can you write on the grave? Yes, you can, just for the marking, in order to know where the grave is. So it's okay to do so, especially with regards to pious people, well-known people, so people want to come back to make dua and then, do some isal sawab there. So that's okay. We can't bury someone in the house. It's not allowed. It is specific to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and any of the prophets. So Imam Ibn Hammam would say, neither the small child nor the adult is to be buried in the house they died in. For this is specifically for the prophets. Burying someone in a vault, in a space which is like a hugest sort of a room, and big enough to have so many people coming in, standing and seeing the dead body being there. So it's not like that. It shouldn't be done. A vault or a cellar, we shouldn't be burying someone in a place like that. It is completely disliked. Exactly, this should not be done. Calling out kalima, encouraging others to say kalima shahadat, and everyone say for a couple of times, and then they start talking or doing whatever. That is considered bid'ah actually. Don't remind people, they let them all do and contemplate and do whatever they have to do on their own. Can we bury multiple bodies in the same grave? Yes, if there's a need. If there's a need for doing so. And again, you would follow the same rules. The men should be towards Qibla, then children, and then the women. So if someone they have not enough people to dig the grave for everyone else, or they haven't got enough space, so then they can bury in one big grave few people, however many people, as Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did with the Sahaba in the Battle of Uhud. And again, if they're all men, 2 or 3 men, then the one who knows most Quran, most pious, should be in front and others to follow. And between each 2, you would put a small mound of soil just to give it a shape that is separated. So that is separated by a bit of earth in between. What about if someone dies in a sea? So if you can make it to the shore, to the land, then that's the best thing. You should do that. If you can't, the body could decay. We'll be there in the next few days. We can't hold it. It's very hot. Then you can wash and shroud and do janaza and then release the body in the water, in the sea. And certain Imam Ahmad, for example, would suggest to tie this with a rock, with a piece of stone heavy enough to let it sink, so it doesn't float all the time and then be like taken up by birds and animals. So let it be drown and be at the base or whatever is the lowest part of the sea. Imam Shafi would say you can put between two planks. Can we transport a body? We should bury in the vicinity, in the area that the person has passed away in. You can move by a mile or two, which is like close by, that's not a problem. But to go to a different city, different country is highly disliked. And people do a lot of that in the modern time. When someone passed away here, they then actually write a will or say, please, I bury my body or myself in my country. I want to be next to my family. You were never with your family anyway in the living. When you were living, what's the point of being close to them when you wouldn't know what they're doing or what you are doing? So this is not a right thing to do, because for one, it is highly disliked, but also there's a lot of disrespect that happens to the body. You can't transport a body without having taken almost everything out of their body. From inside, they have to take the blood out. They have to then inject it with formalin and many other preservatives, so that's to avoid any rupture and opening of the body. So there's, you do not want all that pain and suffering to the dead person. It's very, very bad thing to do, only to please oneself, and it's not going to benefit them the least with regards to their akhirah. So what are we achieving? Even if they have given a warning or a promise, or they will that, it doesn't matter, because you don't want to do something which is going to harm them. Now they know, once they've passed away, they know they shouldn't have done that. So the person, فَمَنْ خَافَ مِنْ مُوسٍ جَنَفًا أَوْ إِثْمًا. So if you find from the person who wrote a will that he has been unjust with regards to giving, a share to someone who he shouldn't be giving, or depriving the rightful heir of some of the inheritance, or if they've committed a sin, let us correct it. فَأَصْلَحَ بَيْنَهُمْ. So just rectify it. So you shouldn't be following that. Ask scholars in a specific situation if there was a need for that. Now, once the body has been covered, everything is done, you can't move that body to another location unless the land was occupied by someone else, been taken by force from someone else. The owner does not allow you, and he claimed that piece of land, then either you pay for that, if he accepts. If he doesn't, then you can even allow him to just use it on top of it, or then you are allowed to take that and excavate the body and move it to a different place. Otherwise, it shouldn't be done. If the grave was already dug for someone else and this person was buried in there without permission, then you have to pay the value of that grave, so that the person who had it for himself for future is compensated for. You can't remove the body even in that situation. Yeah, if there was some valuables left in the grave, then you can dig it out. Whatever that valuable, either the clothes or the money, even the shroud, if that didn't belong to the dead person. Okay. Obviously, we just remove the area that you think you can take it out from, that small amount, a small part. Don't have to dig it all. Yes, I mean, any valuable that you think is significant. Obviously, nowadays, a shroud is not valuable enough to dig a grave out for that. You can pay for that without much trouble anyway, inshallah ta'ala. It doesn't happen these days because there's so many people around and enough light. You could imagine in olden days when there was no light, people would just be doing it late in the evening or early in the morning with lamps, candles. So they could accidentally lose something in there. But you can't, dig it to sort the Qibla direction. Oh, we didn't do it properly, let's do it now. So no, that's completely, wrong. And finally, how do you console and condole? You should offer condolence, and women should do that as well. But ideally, men to men and women to women is better. If there was no cause of fitna, no reason to believe there will be any, discord or any conflicts, then yeah, vice versa as well, be good. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, there is no believer who consoles his brother for a calamity except that Allah will clothe him with garments of honor on the day of judgment. The important benefit. A lot of times, alhamdulillah, Muslims do that. Say kind words, console them, give them some support, glad tiding. If you know something good of the dead person, tell them about that so they'll feel happy. Don't make up though. Don't lie about the person though. Stay quiet. Do not count their bad deeds or bad habits or whatever. Just stay quiet and hope with Allah's mercy, inshallah ta'ala. Whoever consoles a person stricken with a calamity will have a reward equal to his. Obviously, you don't have to do that every day. Once is enough. It should be done for 3 days. But the person who lived far away, he didn't have a chance to come to see them within 3 days because they couldn't see for other reasons or the commitments. So whenever they see the first time, meet the first time, they can console and they can do the condolence for the same event, even if it took place a year ago, for example, provided they lived in a different city or far away. Not that the next door neighbor didn't have a chance to go to them, so then you haven't done anything we should be doing. So that's a deprivation of reward. So you can't after third day think that, oh, I couldn't go due to work, and there was no good reason. You could have gone during the day, but you never thought of that, or you didn't have courtesy to do so. Then you can't mend it after 3 days. So but yes, living in a different city or different area, there's a different matter. You can console or condole on phone, but still could see them however long after you've managed to see them, inshallah ta'ala. So that's it, inshallah ta'ala. So may Allah give us tawfiq to understand the rules of Sharia and then apply. Hope some of the things could get clarified. If not, then you can ask, inshallah ta'ala, on the group. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.